There's nothing left for you but a slow death as your lungs fill with toxic gases.
The Umbrella Corporation had become the largest commercial entity. 9 out of every 10 homes contain its products. Its political and financial influence is felt everywhere. In public, it is the world's leading supplier of computer technology, medical products, and healthcare. Unknown even to its own employees, its massive profits are generated by military technology, genetic experimentation, and viral weaponry.
Making progress, Marine? Your journey is futile. You will die, and your soul will be mine.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I am SocioPsycho, and this is Mob Reviews. And today we're taking a look at Dead Effect. This was created by Bad Fly Interactive. It is a first-person shooter port, but how well does it actually manage to pull that off? Does it have redeeming qualities, or is the core of the game its base developmental stage from where it came doomed from the start? This is available for PC and Mac. Now when we start here, we're going to begin in the options menu. For the video options that you have in the game, you have a wide width screen resolution, so that's nice. The graphic quality of the game is pretty simplistic. It's not anything overly bad. Actually, it falls into a medium area. It's simple, but it's not degrading. They do have a FOV slider, so I'm definitely appreciative of that, but it only goes up to 90, and the way that they do it in the game is a little bit different than a game made for PC, where different degrees might be more or less than what you want. So you have to finagle instead of going directly to the number that you want, as it only goes to 90. The game has been running at 60 frames per second with no tearing, clipping, or crashing. Performance-wise, it's gone off without a hitch. When we jump into audio, all the audio is done and split on different sliders. It has good music, which helps propel an atmospheric sense of dread, tension, horror throughout the game. The speech has a split. There is a computer voice override through the basic systems throughout the ship: corridor closed, door locked, these types of simple commands, which is done nice. But it's the in-game characteristics of your character and whoever you're talking to on the other side of the radio who are really, really bad. The voice acting is just really bad. It doesn't help add anything like up to a story, and we'll talk more about that in story. When we go to gameplay options, you can see there is a few options, nothing really all that much. As I want to point out is the difficulty is on easy, while you do have medium, hard, and hell, so you have 4 difficulties, which is usually the standard in the game. On majority of games, I'm usually playing it on a 3rd out of 4 of the difficulty levels. Here we're playing it on easy, and that's important to keep in mind. For control mapping, you do have the availability to rebind all the keys, so that is always nice to see. So when we jump into the game, the first thing we're going to start out is the story. Who are you? Why are you here? What's going on? And how do you escape? Well, to simplify the answers to those questions, you wake up through a cryostasis, and it's quite evident that the ship that you're on that's traveling through space is not in the most healthy condition. A virus escaped or some extremity of that, and it's your standard Doom game experience with a crossover of Resident Evil. It has some of the atmospheric horrors, not jump scares, as Doom 3, where it's dark, there's danger, it can be scary at some points, or maybe not scary as in oh I shit my pants, but as a high tension, okay, I need to be on the lookout, I need to be ready, I'm gonna get swarmed, there's groups probably behind this door, but I don't know for sure, but knowing this game, if I go through that door, oh yep, I went through the door and there's enemies there. So it has a high tension in the atmosphere due to the lighting effects of the game that allow the story to really push forward this urge of dread. As you progress through the game to find out how to survive, am I going to escape the ship? Am I going to try to clean the ship up and try to stop this virus from spreading? The voice acting that commentates through the game does not really help propel the understanding of the end goals. It's more of just survive one step at a time, rather than have a plan in order to escape or complete the task finalization. The voice acting that you do here is rather bad, as I stated previously. Your main character says a few lines here and there, and sometimes it's just dumb stuff. Not dumb in a manner of like, wow, you're retarded, but in a simple manner of, you didn't even need to say anything there. Okay, I'll go do it, or yay, I got a weapon, or some simplistically, mind-bogglingly useless lines of dialogue which don't really need to be in there for anything. But when you have a conversation with the other person on the other line of your communication, the voice acting becomes evidential through the conversations that is actually quite bad. And it doesn't help propel you into the story as finding out where to go next, what to do next. It doesn't add anything to the atmosphere. And the atmosphere does start off pretty strong to help the story propel this sense of dread and wonder. And then the story and the dialogue follows through. Now they try to bring that up some with these data pads that you find along the way throughout these different levels. They're a little hard to see, that's kind of the point, as they are one part story helpers and another part achievement hunter lust, where you may not see all of them, but you're like, hey, you know what, I'm going to replay that mission and I'm going to find that damn last data pad that I didn't see before. So that doesn't really arc the story way. It does add some gameplay, but when it comes to the story itself, it basically falls down heavily upon what dialogue is told to you, and that's pretty rough. I'll let you hear that for yourself now.
What's this?
Your suit is reporting some health anomalies, so you are infected as well.
What?
If I do not apply the anti-serum immediately, you will become one of them. Detox center is quite close now. Move.
So given that the story is not the strongest aspect of the game, but the atmosphere is, how we interact with the world is what needs to make up for that. And so when we talk about gameplay, we have a multitude of different areas available. Now this is where we're going to backtrack a little bit to the menu page. And when you decide to play the game, you do have a story. So when you go into the story option, you do have a option even after you complete the main story to play it again, a new game plus. Now for those who do not know what a new game plus is, it means basically you start over from a new game with keeping all of your achievements, gear, upgrades and such from your last playthrough and going through again, and the enemies may be a little bit tougher as you can always increase the difficulty in the slider. Now beyond the main story campaign, if you just want to play one mission, they do have that broken up as well. So it's easy to just pop into one mission because like, oh, I love that one mission, I just want to play that one mission. I like this, I like that they give the player the option and opportunity to choose what content they want to play. This is separate than the campaign because the campaign goes by missions. So this isn't losing any option to the player, as you can only play these missions after you beat them in the campaign. So there's no negative here. You beat them through a campaign, you earn it, then you want to play it again, you have that option without having to go through the entire campaign again. So I appreciate that. So when we go to survival mode as well, you have a multitude of different missions that each have a duration of 3 minutes to survive on these maps. Now these different maps have obviously different layouts, and that's in the challenge itself. You get a bonus reward for completing, which goes into the credit system that the game has. Now keep in mind that this game was a port with a gold bars and silver currency, something that you see quite frequently. And we'll talk about whether that is balanced or not later. But the last part is the biohazard. The biohazard element for the game, for the gameplay section, again has a multitude of different maps, but when we go into it, you also have a duration. So you can pick in between the duration of these levels, which would be 15 waves, versus a short, which would only be 4 waves. As well as the difficulty, which will increase the reward that you get, but will also mean that your chance of getting one shot is that much higher. So does the reward pay off to the level of difficulty? And for a biohazard, that really comes down to the individual and the map that they're on. Is it doable? Yes. Is it tied to a sense of grinding? Not so much, because it does come down to the individual player as to, well, I just want to play this in short spurts, or maybe I just want to do a biohazard now and again, as the different weapons do increase a survival chance slightly. They don't give you the obvious, this is way better than the other weapons. So as you can see, there's a large berth of different types of game modes that you do have available. Single player, survival, single mission, biohazard. So you have 4 availabilities tied to your character, which you can interchange, and your progression ties through these different things. So this is definitely nice. When it comes to the weapons, when we talk about what type of weapons that you're able to carry, as you can see as we scroll through the bottom here, you can see different weapons. Now, I do not like how I have to use my mouse and hold over and center the next weapon. It would be nicer just to be able to do it with the keypad, with the arrows, and be like, okay, now I can move to this weapon, now I can move to that weapon. And when we go through here, you can see that there are a large variable of weapons, but you can only take in 3. Now, this is where the game actually has some issues, because while these weapons themselves have only very slight differences in between the reload time, the accuracy, the magazines, the damages, it's not as if you're really getting a huge benefit over having one versus the other, because even when you do buy one, you have the availability when we go to upgrades to purchase with the credits to balance it out. So I'm sure there's some guide or website where you can find what is the best weapon fully maximized in the entire game and just focus completely on that one weapon, as the weapons themselves do not really differ all that much in between each other. Yes, a shotgun will have its own weight and its own heavy hitting feel, but when we go into some of the more extreme enemies, having a shotgun is not always going to be helpful when you have to deal with enemies from a long distance or further away, or when you have enemies who are able to one-shot you. You need distance. While the weapons in the game do have weight and feel heavy and they sound good, because you're only able to take in 3 weapons, as is evident of the equipment screen, you have your pistol, your main weapon, which is either going to be an assault rifle, a chain minigun, a shotgun. You can't put a shotgun into your handgun slot, and you can't say, well, you know what, I'm going to take a shotgun and an assault rifle but not take any grenades. So the weapon choice that you have due to the limitation of what you're able to take into battle actually undermines the game's value of the weapon selection choice to begin with. Yes, there's always the slight discrepancy from personal choice of, hey, I want to use that crossbow rather than a weapon, or hey, I really like the way this gun looks, or it just feels a little better to me personally, rather than the other one that is obviously a little bit better of an upgrade. So yes, there's always going to be personal discrepancy in between what weapon you pick and a personal bias. But when it comes to the mechanical play of the game, they're actually very simplistic in undermining what they have available to allow the player to experience the world. Having a cap on 3 weapons is indicative to the fact of where the game came from in its base creation, rather than encouraging the player to have a multitude of different techniques and capability to kill their way through the levels. Now, when we talk about the upgrades and the weapons as well, you also have bonuses, and this comes into either a same subject matter of whence it came from, or just a lack of vision. When we go into bonuses, all that you have the availability to buy is a regenerative health bar. Now, your health bar is pretty small to begin with, but it's in rotation to the world, I suppose. But all you have available is regenerative health. There's no armor, there's no health increase, there's no movement increase, there's no flashlight duration increase. As you do have a flashlight, that its battery runs down to 0, then it will turn off and it will slowly recharge. There is no other passive character upgrading abilities that allow you to make yourself feel like, hey, you know what, my character's improving, my character's being strong, my character's growing faster and better. The only upgrade opportunities you have come down to the weapons themselves in between increasing the damage, the magazine size, the reload time, or the accuracy. Now, that's not to say that if you don't have any of the upgrades in accuracy that you're not going to be able to hit anything, but if you're hoping to get close to 100% or at least above 90% accuracy, yes, you're going to want to put all your points into accuracy. And by points, I mean the money credits that you earn throughout the missions. Now, while we're going to continue talking about the upgrades, which transitions into the currency that you have, gold bars and credits, they do a fair job of, as you progress through the game, you find upgrades now and again. You might get a little present box after you kill a certain amount of enemies, and it says, hey, you got this one upgrade for reload time for this weapon. Well, I don't own this weapon, I don't use this weapon, I don't care about this weapon, but I have it. So it's kind of cool that indirectly you are making progress to owning everything, if that is what you want, if that's sort of the achievement or accomplishment or loot hoarder have to have it all, have to complete it all. It does help incite that. It says, hey, you know what? We're rewarding you for your time, so I appreciate that. And it also says that with the transition with the gold bars. Now you think, oh crap, gold bars, there's going to be some barriers to only the best items and tiers and everything else gold, and it's not going to transition well. They did transition it well, I think. Yes, there's a certain items which do require a certain level of gold bars, but gold bars aren't something that you really need to worry about as you progress forward. When enemies die a certain number or time or just luck, you will get a gold bar. And before you know it, you'll have enough to purchase what you want, and there's not so many things to purchase that require gold bars to begin with, that it's not really a huge deal. And that ties back into the fact of a biohazard mission, which gives you gold bars upon completing it. So if you did want to just play that casually now and again, or you wanted to grind it out, you can get gold bars to max some of those early items or upgrades that you want. That's just more of a choice of the individual player, rather than something that is forced upon you, and that is important to note. So the game in its transition from screwing in a tablet sense the player over as a high level of currency walls that encourage the player to buy currency or whatever the case or format was, has been transitioned over rather well. But then they go and they shoot themselves in the foot. And this comes down to the gameplay of Dead Effect. When we talk about the gameplay, and you progress through the missions, the game has, first and foremost, a spooky atmosphere. It has a darker theme, which is good. You do have a flashlight, so if some of those really dark corners, you can peer into those dark corners. Now this comes into the gamma, and why this is important is because the gamma that you have, if you bring it too dark, obviously you can't see anything, so you have to find a balance within your own visualization. And you get to a point where it says, okay, it's dark enough where I can still see okay, not perfect, but the lighting of the map does help illuminate the different areas. The issue comes in with the difficulty of the gameplay. Now, as I stated way back in the beginning, I'm playing this game on easy, and I usually play a game on the 3rd out of 4th difficulty. While playing it on easy, it definitely did feel like I was playing it on the 3rd out of 4th difficulty for any other game. Now you can take this and say, you know what, it's good, I want a hard game, I want a challenge, and I want to not be babied, and my hat's off to you, go for it. But the balance in between the game is what we're talking here. And playing it on easy, and while on easy getting one shot by grenaders, there's a monster which walks around and throws a grenade. If they don't make a certain moaning sound, the grenade isn't illuminated, there's no hissing from pressure releasing from the grenade, there's no bouncing or seconds once the grenade hits the ground, which means that as soon as you see one of these fellas, you need to take him out from far range. Thus meaning that your shotgun that we talked about earlier is one more reason why you can't use it, because you can't get close to him. You have to take him out with a distance weapon, which means an assault rifle. Because if he hits you with this grenade, while there is always the discrepancy of did you get lucky and stand next to a box or a crate or a wall, and the wall took some of the blast and not you, so you survive with like 1 health bar? But more times than not, what will happen is that you won't even know that these monsters are in a group of zombies. You won't be able to really see them due to the gamma that we talked about, how dark the level is, until you pop right around a corner of a box or whatever, and boom, there they are, and they one-shot you. The level of difficulty in that essence is not beneficial to the player whatsoever. And this ties into the money aspect we talked about earlier, because it feels like an arcade game in a sense, because it's for PC now, where we know whence it came from. It was made to annoy the person to try to buy past or try again in some sort of money discrepancy. Well, the only thing that happens here is as you play through the map, you get 60, maybe 80% through the map, and you get one shot. It says, okay, now as you progress through the map, you picked up credits and you gain money. But also, the further you get through the map, the more credits that you picked up. Now, we're going to take a larger portion of that to revive you. So you made it to 80%, we want 12,000 or so of your credits. Like, what? And if I say no, then I have to start all the way back at the beginning of the map. It's an insult to the player. Now, the base concept of giving up some of your credits as a punishment of death is not the insult. The insult is playing it on the easiest difficulty and getting one-shot by enemies that you cannot see, that you do not know that they are there more times than not, and that you cannot dodge the attacks that they have. Which ties into the further indicative nature that if you lose the money, then you can't upgrade your weapons. You can't upgrade your weapons, you never feel like you're progressing. Even though the weapons themselves don't make a huge bunch of difference in progressing through the game. The gameplay in its base is fine, and one way to try to circumvent this is sure, you can turn the gamma up and say, okay, there is no shadows, there is no dark spots, and I can see everything perfectly clear. But then you just rip out the entire atmosphere of the game and it turns into some sort of just bullet fest. So it would lose its soul, in a manner of speaking, the very essence of what the game is by turning its gamma up in order to combat the unfair difficulty in the game. The biggest issue that this game has is its difficulty slider. How when you play it on easy, it feels like you're playing it not on normal, but on hard. And that's just not conclusive for the multitude of people who don't even like playing games on hard to begin with. Now they could have, as I talked about before, tried to alleviate some of this for whatever reason in case there was some sort of encoded, really deep algorithms that said, you know what, the difficulty of how much monsters do on the easy, we cannot get past that. Well, why don't you just make the player then stronger? Give her double health, armor, increased passives like we said before. But the fact is that you can't upgrade any sort of passives. You don't get armor, increased health, and the enemies are able to one-shot you. It doesn't leave you with a feeling of, maybe if I was faster, maybe if I was stronger, maybe if I was quicker, or maybe if I remembered where they were, because the maps grow longer as you progress. So it doesn't allow the character to have any form of sense of progression. Now, while the weapons do offer a level of depth in how they feel, like, hey, this is heavy, or hey, this is fast. When it comes to the gameplay, this is also indicative, because when we look at the ACOG on an assault rifle, it's a black dot, not a red dot. How the hell am I supposed to tell when I'm shooting in a shadowy hallway upon an enemy who's in shadow if that is where my retinal is? There are minor little things like that spread out through the entire game, which don't by themselves damn the game, but altogether they tear it down. So at the end of the day, how well has this game transitioned over to a PC? And unfortunately, while it did make the effort, it did not do enough in the balance category, and that is why it's damned. That is why it's having the negative issues that it is. The game is not balanced. And if the game is not balanced, it's not going to respect your time as an individual. And if it's not going to respect your time, you're never going to feel like you're progressing. If you never feel like you're progressing, then you're never going to feel like you're able to accomplish anything. And if you're not able to accomplish anything, you're not able to have fun. And if you're not having fun, you're not going to want to play the game. The idea and concept are good. The voice acting is horrific, but the atmosphere and the high-paced FPS shooting caliber can slide by that because it has a strong atmosphere. But as it always comes back to, the weapons and the items and the gear not filling up any of the gaps into the balance discrepancy leaves the player just hitting their head against a wall or sacrificing what they've earned throughout the level, their rewards, the only reward they have, money. They have to sacrifice all that they had just to get through the map, as these maps grow longer. So ladies and gentlemen, I cannot recommend this game, because while it did seem to try to bridge the gap between the tablet world and the PC world, and for whatever reason on a personal level, they were not able, via skill or understanding of what that would entail, and what is expected on a PC game. The game had fun moments, but at the end, the heart of the game, from whence it was created, of its pay-to-win experience, its heart of monetization on a different platform, they were not able to get away from. It was far too embedded into the game, and unfortunately, that did it in. I have been SocioPsycho, this has been Mob Reviews. I thank you for watching, subscribe, see more videos, and I'll see you next time.
Try to even out the patches that we've sown.